Hello, this is Sally, and this is my workshop. I call it Good Dog Glass. And the reason I call it that is this hobby allows me to combine two things that I really love. One is working with glass, and the other is raising money to give to rescue groups, dog rescue groups. So 50% of the proceeds that I have from working with glass, I give to dog rescue groups. And speaking of wonderful dogs from rescue, here's our little guy, Alfie. There he is. He's such a cutie pie. Anyway, he's the supervisor of Good Dog Glass. Okay, let's look at the studio, and the workshop rather. I'm going to try to do this fast, but it probably won't be really. So here's the door, not just a door, but also a place to store things. You probably recognize this as a shoe caddy. Most people put shoes in this and then hang it over the door. Not me. I put Frit. Frit is ground up glass. So here's an example. See, it's kind of finely ground up, and you can buy it in containers like this. I buy most of my glass and other things from Warm Glass. They're about 20 miles away from me in Clemens. So big shout out to Warm Glass. They're great folks. So the door is front and back full of Frit. So let's kind of scoot over here. Oh, by the way, this spring our heat and air died, so we have a new unit down here. My workshop is in the place where the heat and air unit is. So hello, Lennox, and goodbye vacation for this year. Here is a wonderful thing that my husband Michael made for me this summer. It is a place to store all of my flat glass, so all the sheets of glass that I use in my work here. So he made this. It was tedious, and he stuck with it the whole time. It's beautiful. Not only functional, but beautiful. Look at this decoration all around the perimeter. He didn't have to do that, but he did. He's wonderful. And you can see these small little areas on the edge are too small to put glass in there, so he made it to where I can put these, they're called stringers or noodles or rods, depending on how big they are. And so these just slide in and out of those. It's perfect. So that is wonderful. Oh, and isn't it gorgeous just to look at? Ah, okay, here's my kiln. It's in progress right now. Let's see, where are we? Hey, we're at the full fuse. It is holding it there for 30 minutes, and it looks like we've got a ways to go on that. So there it is, doing its job. It's a rather small kiln, only 14 inches. Maybe next year I'll get a bigger one. So over here in the corner, up on the shelf here, are just some things that I use to hang ornaments or necklaces or other things when I do a show. And so when we moved in, the previous owners had made this room to be a workshop. It's a 16-foot square area, and so they already had this cabinetry installed, so it's fantastic. So much storage. I'm very fortunate. So we just came in and painted everything white to make it look nice. So on the counter here, you see I've got a lot of items that I'm making for the Christmas store of the Kernersville Arts and Craft Guild. I'm a member of that guild, so I'm making a bunch of things. I'd like to have 100 items this year. We'll see. Here's an example of a necklace that I've made. And so moving on down, you can see these are molds, and these particular molds right here, these two, are just examples of molds I have that I work in with Frit. So see this, these two ornaments right here? They're made out of Frit, and so I put Frit in these molds and do some other things. I won't get into all the details right now. Well, this will take forever. And put it in the kiln for, it's about 6 hours. And this is what comes out. It's beautiful, isn't it? And there are other molds. So these molds over here are slumping molds, or examples of some of the slumping molds I have. This one will make a big bowl, and this one made this, little plate. And so here's what happens. The first stage is you make a flat item. So see, this is flat. That's stage one. Stage two is, if you want to decorate it, you do what's called tack fusing. See those little glass balls that are tack fused on top? So this little guy has been in and out of the kiln twice already. So there's already about 13 hours of kiln time so far. And then I will put it on top of this mold, this slumping mold, put it back in the kiln for about another 4 to 5 hours, and it will slump into the shape of the mold. So I think it's going to be a great little M&M dish. So that's that. Over here are some other ornaments that I'm working on for the Christmas store. I need to get some of these finished and boxed up. Trans-Siberian Orchestra is playing some Christmas music for me to help keep me in the mood. Up above the cabinet here is a pegboard that Michael installed for me last year. Maybe it was the year before, but anyway, it has all my tools on it. I love it. I'm all about the tools. There are lots of things up here because when you do the kind of hobbies that I'm interested in, you need a lot of tools. Here's some jewelry pliers and things like that. I also, apart from fuse class, I also do mosaicing. So there are some of these supplies that are more in the mosaic realm. This little gizmo right here helps me to cut perfect circles in glass. And then this is this helps me with powder that's made out of glass, and I'll show you an example of what I do with that later. This is just a bunch of mica, and you can use mica as an inclusion in fused glass, or I sometimes also use it with polymer clay with mosaics. And then here's just a bunch of paints and markers and stuff like that that I use in various and sundry ways. So that is the back of the workshop. Lots of books. What would I be without my books? So, and then over here, we start moving into the area where it's mostly mosaic kinds of things. And so, including things that I will mosaic on, you know, such as pots, musical instruments, shoes even, other glass items. So these ball jars are just full of tesserae. And so tesserae are basically squares of glass, or actually tessera are a square of anything, but in this case it's glass. They might be, you know, big glass like this. It could be smaller pieces, might be round pieces, it might be millefiori pieces. So all of those things, including sometimes broken pottery and things like that, that I can use in mosaic. And then the rest of that storage area is just the last 2 rows of cubbies here, columns of cubbies, are things I use with glass fusing, including more molds, a large thing of clear frit. You use a lot of clear frit when you're working with frit. A lot of chemicals that, and other things like glue and other kinds of things that you need to work with. This glass, I have a whole lot of what's called dichroic glass. Here's just an example. Isn't that just so gorgeous? Oh, and it just changes color as the light hits it. That's part of what dichroic glass does. I use that in jewelry. I use it in other kinds of projects. So I've got a ton of it there. I absolutely love it. When my parents died and we were cleaning out their house, my mother had tons of jewelry that was, some of it she was into making jewelry, but some of it was just her costume jewelry. So I have some of that I include in mosaics. Over here I have not only storage for patterns and things like that and more molds, but also beads. I do some beading. I do simple beading that is kind of an accessory to mosaics that I'm working on, and also an accessory in some of my fused projects. And also in mosaic I may use shells and wire and rocks and all that kind of stuff. So I basically use pretty much any found object that moves me in that particular project. Working around over to this side of the room, we have the latest thing to come into the workshop, and this is a workstation that Michael, my husband, made for me this summer. He is just the greatest. Oh, wait a minute, an interruption. We have Alfie coming into the workshop just to make sure that I'm on track. Thank you, Supervisor Alfie. So over on my workstation, I have a grinder. If you've done any glass, you're very familiar with this, of course. It's got a little grinder on top and a bigger grinder down below. So it grinds the rough edges off the edge of glass that I've cut. Over here is a ring saw. If you're not familiar with a ring saw, it's called that because the cutting blade is a ring. Might not be able to see that, but it cuts really interesting shapes, intricate shapes that you might not be able to do with just a glass cutter. So that's just a little tiny piece of glass, but I cut that with the ring saw to show you what it would be like. Very intricate. You can cut up in a channel up into the glass. Very cool. Anyway, I also have a couple of ovens here. Toaster oven is for the polymer clay. You have to bake it to set it to where it is then hard. And there'll be no more toast in that oven after polymer clay's been in it. And a small microwave. I have a very small microwave kiln, and sometimes I'll make just a little teeny item in it because it's quick. And then down below, of course, are just some areas to store glass shards and, you know, glass scrap. When you work with fused glass, you don't waste anything. Every tiny little piece I keep in those bins, and then I find ways to work them into other projects. So, pretty cool. Here's my table. It's just a plastic table, not a big nice workbench, but this is perfect for this space because I do like to sit down when I work sometimes. And I'm getting ready to make some rainbow swirls. I love making the spirals, and I'm going to do a couple with rainbow colors. And yay, pride. And so this is my workstation here. And also here is a Morton system. For those of you that work with glass, you know this well. You can see how well used mine is. But this is just a system that helps you cut glass straight, and all kinds of things you can do with this system. I won't get into all that detail. But anyway, this is my workshop, and I love being in here, and it helps me keep the creative juices flowing. It's really important for me to do that. And even though I love my real job at the BB&T Leadership Institute, I also love doing this. And I love the way that it also helps me give back to rescue groups. So, isn't that right, Alfie? You are a rescue. So thank you for sharing the last 14 minutes with me. I apologize for this being so long. So I'll shut up now. Thanks. This is Sally signing off from Good Dog Glass. Bye-bye.